The Holy Trinity, that's maybe the most fundamental truth of our faith. And still such a great mystery, something that really goes beyond what we can grasp. One nature, three person, as we heard in the gospel, he takes from what is mine, he gives it to you. And so what he hears, something complicated at times. Something so complicated that St. Augustine, as he tried to write about the Trinity, him who wrote so extensively, it took him over 30 years to finish that work. And as he's writing it, he has a dream. He dreams of a little boy on the seashore who is, with the shell, is taking water from the sea and put it into a hole. And so he goes there and says, "Little boy, what are you doing?" "I'm trying to put the ocean, the sea, into this hole." It's like, "Oh, but that's impossible. You're not going to be able to do that. It will take you forever." And he says, "It will take me less to put this sea into this hole than for you to take and understand the Holy Trinity and put it into your brain." And he's thinking, and the kid disappears, and he realizes it's a dream. This is to understand how beyond ourselves our God is, beyond everything we can really understand. And so people throughout the centuries have tried to give us images to help us understand. So like the sun is the Father, and the ray is the Son, and the heat is the Holy Spirit. Still one Son, but three different components. Or if you remember from your chem class, what's the formula for water? H2O. So whatever is water, you can have, that's the nature, but you can have ice, you can have liquid water, you can have steam. Still water, but three different forms of this water. But the one that really hit home for me when I heard this explanation was the one that talks about love. Love is so important and always touches my heart that I think makes sense for everyone, because everybody, in a way or another, is experiencing some sort of love. So the Father is the one who loves the lover. And his love is so real and intense that it's another person, the Son. And the Son is also wants to respond to this gift of the Father. And so they love each other, and their love is so real, it's fruitful, that it's another person, the Holy Spirit. And so when we see in the way of love, we understand our God, who is a Trinity, it's all about gift. It's all about gift of yourself. It's all about love. And maybe we can understand why we believe that our family is made in the image and likeness of God. No, we believe that family needs to mirror the Trinity of God. So there's a man who loves a woman and a woman who loves a man, and their love, it's fruitful. And sometimes that fruitfulness in their love becomes a child, becomes another person. I said sometimes because not all the times that love becomes another person. Does it mean that that couple is not complete? I don't think so. I said somehow needs to be fruitful. Love, when it's given, when it's a gift, is always fruitful. I remember this couple that I met who got married later in life, and so they couldn't have children. But they found a communion and a communion mission so that despite them being unable to have children, they wanted to help people who had experienced some sort of loss of their child before birth. And that's how they dedicate their life, their family. And that is fruitful too. Or I don't know if you know any persons who are single. You know, you see how when they find their mission, when they find a purpose in their life, they're also satisfied and they're also fruitful. And usually that mission has something to do with giving, with the gift of love. And as a matter of fact, priests do not marry, consecrated people do not marry, as a reminder of God and of the love of God. As a reminder that you can be fruitful also if you're not in a family, as much and as far as you give yourself. You make yourself a gift. But the Trinity, I think, calls all of us to unity and communion. Think about your own life. How much we all desire to be loved, to be understood, to be known. How much, like in all families, even the best one I've known, there's always something against unity and against communion. Might be all united, but still that personal relationship is not as fulfilling as it should be. And it kind of hurts and aches. And so we want to do something about communion. We want to do something about unity. I think it's important for us to remember that and try to strive for that. What can I do for community and union? And I think children always are a great example for life, because in their simplicity they understand the most deep thing of life. How do children spell love? Do you know how children spell love? 4-letter words. T-I-M-E. Time. If you don't give it time, it's not going to happen. If you don't give them time, they're not going to perceive that love. If you don't give time to your relationship in trying to find unity and communion, it's not just going to happen one day when you wake up and it's all good. You need to put time in relationship. And so, where are you spending your time? Think about your day, think about your week. There are things that you cannot avoid, but there are some other things that you choose to do. Where do you put your time? You know, I didn't do a survey or a scientific survey, but I do live among people, believe it or not. And I do talk with my parishioners and with people I love. And what I keep hearing over and over again, here and there, is that people struggle with another God. Sometimes people struggle with another God. Somebody they give their time to, their talent to, and he has the highest priority in their lives. I think last year there was this big building that was being built in a little south of here. And it kind of looked like a big church. And so we were wondering, like, what kind of a church moved into the neighborhood? I don't know what denomination they are. Who is moving here? And then when the work were done, guess what? It was a mega store on sports goods. So do you think I would be too extreme if I say that maybe for some of us, for a lot of us, the other God may become sport? Can you imagine like sport and treating sport the way we treat church Sunday at times? Like, sorry coach, I came late for the game. You know, it's the only day I can sleep in, and so I thought, not a big deal, I can come late, right? Or like you say, coach, can you pull my kids out earlier because I need to leave. I don't want to get stuck in the parking lot, you know, and then I need to wait there like 2 or 3 minutes before I can get home and move to the other thing. It sounds odd, but that's, I think, something that can help us to reflect. And I know sport is not the only place we put time in, but it made me think when I heard from this coach that he was coaching these kids, and he said, okay, kids, tell me, in your whole year, what's your favorite game? What's the favorite game, absolute favorite you play? And they all say, no cheer game. What is a no cheer game? It's a game where your parents can come, but cannot talk. They cannot cheer for you. They cannot comment. They cannot coach from the bleachers. They're absolute quiet. That's what they like the most. Can you imagine, and maybe like we don't realize at times how children feel that pressure to entertain their parents. Because all of a sudden they become the source of attention and the attraction. That's how their parents choose to spend their time. Where is the fun? I remember growing up, I had a lot of fun, and my mom had a hard time to keep me at home to do my homework because I was always out, always playing sport. But it was so much fun. And of course, it wasn't a league, it wasn't something very fancy. Maybe backyard, maybe somebody's house. And it didn't need much. Just a ball, a backyard, and kick the ball. Shoot some hoops in the driveway, playing catch. You know, when you can play with people that are older than you and you learn from them and you're challenged. Maybe at times you have games for different sexes, and so you don't have parents running everywhere for every single kid. You know, when you start putting together the time you spend somewhere else on these things, and you count the hours, it's like, wow, never thought about it. And of course, I don't want this to become something against sport, because sport is good and teaches a lot of great values. But it has to be done in balance, because we all have 24 hours. And if mom or dad or both need to work, and we all need to sleep, there are not many hours left in the day. So how much of those hours we can freely choose to use, we are putting into union, we're putting into communion, and building a relationship with our loved ones. I know you want to be great parents. I know all of us want to be great leaders. And I hope you understand what I'm saying comes from a place of love, not from a place of judgment. I need to tell what I see. And I see great parents who want to give the best to their children, and sometimes their best comes through the no you say to them. And it will be like for all of us. It will be a tragedy. We will get mad at our parents, but then we'll get over it. And we appreciate it later on. I was the odd kid in my group of friends because my dad was always working late. And so, not even talking about the time you guys eat dinner, but we eat at 8, more or less. So my dad was coming home at 9:30 at night. And so every single evening, because it was important to eat together, we were waiting for Dad. And even at 9:30, when like all my friends were watching movies or maybe getting ready to go to bed, because it was important for them, for my family, to eat together. And I grew up with it and I didn't know any difference. But I can see how and why in myself, like the desire for unity and communion is so strong. If we don't give time to things that are important in our life, they will never happen. And then you read studies that say, if family live together, have meals together, have spent time together, maybe playing board games, watching movies, and talk about things, like really spending quality time together, then there's more likely of success of their children. Maybe less likely to drop out school, to get involved in alcohol and drugs, teen pregnancy, like all these kind of stats that are saying when the family is united, when we spend time for communion, that pays back. It's like the best investment you can have in your life, the best return you can have in your life. So what is taking your time in life? When you need to say no to something, to say yes to something else, becomes a great teachable moment, not just for your children, but for yourself, for your spouse. It's like, I'm choosing to say no because I'm choosing something to say yes. And you teach about sacrifice, and you teach about gift, And you teach about if there are greater things that you want to pursue, you need to say no to things that are not so good. There was this book a few years ago that was very popular, the whole thesis of it was, good at times is the enemy of better. We do something good for all of us, but we cannot do something better. What can we do then? It's important that we take seriously the call to communion and unity in our life. So that 10, 15 years from now, we don't say, well, my kid left the church. My kid changed religion. They're living together after all this time. They know where we stand for marriage. And they move in together. That's a huge influence you have. Huge influence you have as parents, as grandparents, as aunts and uncles, as neighbors. Do not underestimate the power you have and what you can do for people around you. You spend, how many times I heard of grandparents being said, they were the glue of the family. They kept us together. I remember my grandma, she had a great influence on my vocation, even before I knew I was called to be a priest. Great example of faithfulness. Always coming back and doing simple things, but for the love of the family, for the love of being together, for the care she had for me, my mother, and all of our family members. So I can leave you with a homework for the summer, as I'll be gone for the summer, and you will not hear me every single week anymore. Sit down. See where you put the time. In a week, in a span of month. How much time do I put in this activity? How much time do I put in TV, electronics, sport, shopping, whatever you do? Map it out and see. And how much time do I spend in a day, in a week, sitting down as a family, having meal, having quality time? And even if you're empty nesters, if your kids are grown, you can still work with each other relationship. You can still maybe find that time and help other families who might have too many kids to juggle to say, I want to help you. Let me take some stress off of your plate. I want to help you. You guys, why don't you guys go on dates? So you recharge yourself, and then when you come back, you pour into. If we teach our young generations, if we teach all of us to really grow as men and as women, how much time we spend in doing that? Even with our peers, with our friends. Calling them out and say, this is not good for you. This is not going to lead you anywhere. This is not going to help you to become who God made you to be. To have joyful and holy families, joyful and holy legacy, it's possible. Have so many examples of faces and families in front of me, of people who are passing down their faith to their children and their children's children, and they're so united and make so much difference. The most important work you can do is within the walls of your home. The time you spend there, the time you spend and invest in those relationships. Because if that is a place of good and healthy relationship and communion and unity, all your relationship will have that standard to match. And nothing else will be enough. God is faithful. He wants to fulfill you, and He wants to fulfill this promise. The question is, would you help me to do that?